Okay, so a couple of days ago, there was a data mined change for specifically Monk, and it was weird because it wasn't mentioned in the developer notes, so we don't know if there's like some speculation that it's a bug, but I don't want to call it a bug because it's clearly like it feels like more or less intended. I want to just spend some time in this video talking about the implications and what it does to the Brewmaster class. So just in case you aren't aware or you didn't hear, Brewmaster has basically or Blizzard has taken to what am I saying? Blizzard went in and they doubled the value of Celestial Brew and Celestial Infusion absorb values, but they've also changed the cooldown from a 45-second CD to a minute and a half. Now, we don't fully know if this is intended. And the main reason why I would say that is mostly because it wasn't mentioned in the PTR development notes at all for this build. Also, sometimes, especially with Blizzard's coding, I'm sure, when they change one value by doubling it, it might accidentally double a different value. So we don't know if Blizzard was just trying to double the value of Celestial Infusion and keep the cooldown the same, or they intentionally doubled both, or they only meant to double the cooldown and keep the absorb value the same. There's a lot of, I think, speculation around this currently, but assuming we're taking this at face value and it is what it is, I want to spend some time in this video talking about what this does to the class and how this is, I think, a nerf, albeit maybe a pretty small one. So just in case you weren't aware, Celestial Infusion up to this point has been give or take a 45-second cooldown, and you can reduce it with some other talents, and obviously you're benefiting from cooldown reduction. Every time you cast Keg Smash, you get cooldown reduction. If you benefit from Blackout combo, you gain cooldown reduction. When you Tiger Palm, you gain cooldown reduction. There are a plethora of ways to get additional cooldown reduction on your Celestial Infusion, so ultimately it's not really a 45-minute or 45-second CD. It's generally in the range of 20, 25, 30 seconds, give or take, and there's additional ways to reset. For example, with Black Ox Brew, you can just reset the cooldown, and if you're playing Master of Harmony, you have 2 charges. So Brewmasters are used to, and if not intentionally using Celestial Infusion and Celestial Brew as a rotational device, a catalyst for your rotation, whether you're playing Shado-pan or you are playing Master of Harmony. So what does doubling the cooldown do? It makes it longer. Duh. You can look at this and you can also make the argument, well, Blizzard wants Celestial Infusion or Celestial Brew to be used as a defensive and not so much as a rotational device. And it sucks because I feel like it being used as a rotational device has actually been working in 2 ways in tandem with each other that are both really good. I generally think that Celestial Infusion should be a rotational button. I think a trap that a lot of players have fallen into in the past seasons and past expansions is they hold on their Celestial Brew way too long and they don't actually use it. And now back in the day, I mean, ultimately just sitting on it or not using it or using it just meant you got defensive value. But with our Apex talent, Bring Me Another, especially the rank 4 one, using it would guarantee a proc, which meant that you were getting a reset on your keg was free. That free keg then gave you cooldown reduction on your Celestial Brew or Celestial Infusion, whichever one you were playing. And that feels really good. That feedback loop is really rewarding. And so generally, you want to use Celestial Infusion or Celestial Brew as often as possible, basically on cooldown. And with how minuscule the absorb has been, it doesn't really feel like a defensive. It's maybe a little bit of active mitigation, but it's more or less a catalyst for a fluid feeling class. So by them doubling the cooldown and doubling the absorb value, nothing necessarily changes. There's no net change. There's no healing gain. There's no defensive gain, really. You're just getting less you're getting the same amount of absorbs per minute, but you're getting less absorbs per 30 seconds, I guess. So it's a very weird thing for Blizzard to do. So I had spent some time yesterday on stream on the PTR testing Brewmaster. I played it in all 4 of the new dungeons that are available this week, which are the Midnight Dungeons, which is Den of Nalarok, it's Murder Row, it's Voidscar Arena, and it's Blinding Veil. So I spent some time doing these 4 dungeons on 15, 16 key level, kind of depending. And I have to say, it's relatively noticeable because if you've been playing Brew as much as I have, or as long as I have, you kind of get into a cadence in your rotation where you know when your brews are available and you know kind of when to hit them. There's this very natural break point in the rotation or just in your gameplay loop every about 40 seconds, 20 to 40 seconds, kind of depends, where you won't have a Keg Smash charge and you you'll be a little low on energy, and it's nice to kind of have that reset button being Celestial Infusion. But now you don't have that. When you go to hit it, because you have a little bit of a gap in your rotation, it's not available. You're sitting there for a little bit of time. And so alternatively, all I've done is I've simply swapped to Black Ox Brew. And so now I'm able to reset my Purifying Brews, which I'm still able to fish for. I'm still able to get the 20% proc off of. And it's able to reset this 1.5-minute cooldown, but then I can sit on it for a little bit of time until I feel a little bit of a dip in my rotation, which has a different interaction with Black Ox Brew than I kind of expected. Normally, you would kind of pop this. You would see if you fish for a reset. You would Purifying Brew, see if you fish for a reset. And then if neither of those two conditions were met, you would then Celestial Infusion to get the reset, so then you can continue with your rotation. It's a very fast like reset of your gameplay. But now, because of how slow the recharge is, even with cooldown reduction on a 1.5-minute cooldown, you're using this now every roughly 40 to 45 seconds. Again, there's give or take depending on the cooldown reduction talents you're opting into. But there's now like a noticeable gap every once in a while, and it's a little uncomfortable. So I hope that this change was a bug, or it was an accidental thing that they did. I can't really imagine anything that they would do intentionally. I can't imagine a reason that they would have to intentionally do this. Now, there's a couple of other things that it's definitely hurting by this existing, or I guess maybe we can try to think through why this would be the case. So I've seen some arguments to make light brewing more competitive as a choice node, but I just can't see how that's true. Because like at least napkin math, if you have a 1.5-minute cooldown and you reduce it by 20%, and you have a 45-second cooldown and you reduce it by 20%, basically over twice, the math's the same, right? It's 90 seconds versus 45, 20% of either one, and one of them being doubled is the same value. So it doesn't really make light brewing more competitive. Black Ox Brew is definitely a good cooldown to have in your kit now because of this change as well. Being able to reset your Celestial Infusion when you need to, or reset your energy when you need to. This is a nice button, but I think a lot of players do like playing Bob and Weave. So I don't know if it's really to make this more competitive, but the thing is Black Ox Brew has been good. It's not that Bob and Weave is like a 100% take all the time talent. I've been playing Black Ox Brew in level 23 keys on live servers and having success with it. It's more of a comfort choice, and you can kind of pick and choose. Do you want just pure passive defense, or you do want to have a little bit more agency over your defensive value, even though it's a little bit weaker, but you can also trade this for offensive value through things like special delivery or just Apex talent resets. So it was a really interesting choice node here, which they didn't need to change Celestial Infusion or Celestial Brew's cooldown to make this a reality. So those two things are like maybe the justification for why they're changing this, but I couldn't tell you. The last thing that it's kind of hurting, and this is just something I want to just talk about, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but overall, it's a damage loss for Master of Harmony by a very, very minor amount. It's nothing catastrophic by any means, but the whole gameplay loop for Master of Harmony is to cast Celestial Infusion often. So you gain stacks of Harmonic Surge, and then that Harmonic Surge / potential energy stacks gets discharged on Tiger Palm to deal damage. Now you're just going to have less of those every minute. You're just going to have one less cast or whatever it ends up being. And so this is just technically a small damage loss as well. What's weird is that it's not like Brewmaster gains... It's not like we're haste stacking or we're doing anything unique that gives us crazy cooldown reduction, so we have it like so often that they needed to do this change. It's just ultimately coming down to like it's just a weird change. It's not great. So I just wanted to take some time to kind of talk about it. I will say this, at the end of the day, like it's not the end of the world. Even if this change is intended and it's going to stay this way, then the 90 seconds doesn't matter as much. There is a world where you might want to blackout combo a little bit more often for the keg smash reduction versus the Tiger Palm damage. There's a world. I'm not saying it's the best choice, but if you really want the absorb value for a certain damage event or something, you could make that active decision, which I think is good. And then the other kind of silver lining is, yes, the cooldown's doubled and the absorb value is doubled, but that doubled absorb value actually feels pretty good. When I do end up using it, it's almost 300,000 health, which is 30%, give or take, 28%, 27% of my max health. So it does feel a little bit better as an absorb, But overall, I think the premise of it, I think they're missing the mark here if this was an intended change. So those are my thoughts. I just wanted to take some time to share that with you guys. If I missed anything, leave it down below. I hope, I don't know. I don't know what they want. I don't know what I want them to do with Celestial Infusion or Celestial Brew. Realistically, I preferred it at a 45-second cooldown interval. I liked it being rotational. I know a lot of people want big absorbs back, but I don't, with the addition of things like Vital Flame and our Apex talent, I just don't think it's realistic for that to happen anytime soon. But I will say this, Brewmaster does feel good in keys. It feels stable. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a meta tank by any means. They don't have a kit that handles every dungeon in the best way, but they feel sturdy. They do good damage, so I can't complain. Anyways, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.